Hello, everybody. It's good to see y'all here. It's a nice Tuesday, and there's all kinds of crazy getting ready to go here. But college football starting up this weekend, and nothing has changed basically on the Stanford side. Good morning, Conundrum. How you doing, buddy? Let's see. You've got a question. ACC keeps pushing for adding California, Stanford. They have not flipped any votes that I'm aware of at this point. Um, there's a very good chance the deal can be reached soon. But here's your giveaway, okay? The only way that they're going to call a meeting of the presidents is if they have the votes. The most likely vote to flip would possibly be North Carolina State. Of those four schools, they might be the one that holds the linchpin. Frankly, I'm just hoping it gets over fast because they're holding hostage Oregon State and Washington State, who haven't done anything other than what they're supposed to do. So, at the end of the day, we'll see. Until they vote, the answer is to that question is no. They haven't. And if you're a fan of the American or the Mountain, the longer this goes on, the less likely it is that you're going to be restarting the Pac-12, or starting with 8, the Pac-8, 10, or whatever. So, at the end of the day, we really have to see what happens. But I don't think they're going to wait past this week. It just doesn't make any sense to do it because then we're into football, we're into all the fall sports have started, and it just doesn't make any sense. But then again, when has any of this made sense in recent years? I mean, all of the realignment has been a bit wonky in that regard. John Wilner in the Mercury News, which is a newspaper out in the San Francisco Bay Area, quoted Washington State President Kurt Schultz, and he thought that Schultz had thought that perhaps the last-minute votes by Oregon and Washington last week to move to the Big Ten was instigated by Fox, who didn't want Apple to get into the college sports business. It's an interesting hypothesis, and is there truth to it? We certainly don't know. I don't think that that's it. Then also he said that Arizona had actually applied to the Big 12 on Wednesday, which would have definitely opened the door there. So I think right now either the Big 10 and the Big 12 are trying to distance themselves from what happened Friday 2 weeks ago. But at the end of the day, it was the Pac-12 presidents who decided that they wanted to move on. So you can't really blame either conference for that because the powers that be didn't get the job done. So there's that. And the game, I guess, of the weekend, there's two, really. Notre Dame and Navy play each other in Dublin, Ireland. That ought to be fun to watch on NBC and Peacock. And then for those of you at the Pac-12 network, San Jose State comes to Los Angeles and plays USC at the Coliseum. Now, I know there's been some flooding out there in Southern California, and it's really caused a great deal of damage. And we certainly send our hopes that people are safe and that whole situation out there is getting taken care of, because it's certainly not as important. A football game is not as important as people getting back to their daily lives. So we hope that is going on out in Southern California as we speak, and that people stay safe. So anyway, back to the show. And if you look at what's going on here now, there's a report out of the front office sports that said that they felt that within the next 5 years or so, Apple would buy ESPN. Now, I mean, could they? Yeah. I mean, they even estimated it'd probably be about a $50 billion deal. I would think, though, and I've seen Amazon link to it. I've seen YouTube link to it. Just Google. I would think that at the end of the day, that people right now would be more excited just to come and do a partnership. There's no you could do what Apple would want to accomplish, and that would be to stream everything and become a partner with them at a less, a smaller dollar figure. That would allow ESPN to produce all the content, and then Apple would basically be their streamer, their marketer. So that would take some money of infrastructure money and streaming money off the table, so that it could be much more palatable for ESPN and Apple to do it. That's a long way down the line. I don't see that happening anytime soon. It's there's a lot of moving parts. Immaculate, how you doing, buddy? Good morning. We were just talking about a couple things. Stanford making no decisions yet. The ACC making no decisions. The Oregon State and Washington State being held hostage at this moment. They're doing hostage videos. By the way, there was a really cool promotion video for Washington State. You got to check it out. It's there you go. Just waking up for your first cup of coffee. Well, we're really happy. There was no official vote. I don't think that there will be an official vote on. They won't vote unless they have the yes votes. Okay, it doesn't make any sense to do that. So how this would work is one of two ways. One, they hold an official get together like the Big 12 did last week, week and a half, 2 weeks. I can't keep track of it now. And they would officially invite Stanford, Cal, and SMU to the conference. Or they would simply issue a statement which would say, we are not adding anyone at this time. And that would be the end of it right there. So that's likely what we're going to see. We're going to see one of two things. One, a vote that gets them in, or a statement that says while we are interested in expanding in the future, we're not interested in expanding now. So that would be what we're looking for. I'm standing firm on my opinion that the only way they turn those votes into other schools is agree to negotiate a final cost of exiting for the other schools. That's a possibility too. Yeah, no, it's a good question and a good hypothesis in that regard. I mean, that would mean that, no pun intended, but SMU and Stanford would have to pony up a significant amount of money. And I mean, that's basically, it's a little over almost, it's a little over $500 million that would take to get them in there. So that's a lot of money in that regard. But you know what? It's not out of the realm of possibility. Imagine you're right. Hey, oh, you're back. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I think that that would be one way of getting it done. It wouldn't be a heavy lift for those two schools, I don't think. But the issue here now is how small. Let's play your scenario out. If they negotiate the final cost for those other schools to get out, those other schools haven't been invited anywhere. Well, I don't know how quickly, if it's the Big Ten or if it's the SEC, how quickly they would jump at, let's say, Clemson and Florida State, okay? Where's the money coming from? And I think that's the key here, is that if they jump and it's the SEC for two of them, would the money come, would ESPN put the money up? If it's the Big Ten, would Fox put the money up? Would the Big Ten or the SEC consider having a partner, like we talked before about streaming? Like maybe it's an Apple or an Amazon. I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts in that situation, and it takes a lot longer than a week or two to get it done. Likely the schools know, the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, if they have a spot. Yeah, I understand. But again, I think the key here is if you're going to put the money in, that money in, will the ACC stick around? I mean, will the ACC be able to keep itself together in a way that will make it a viable conference? I mean, and then again, North Carolina State, I'm not so certain that that's the play the Big Ten wants. North Carolina, yes. North Carolina State, probably not. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's onboarding some new schools in that way, I could see, after this contract, but I don't see it now. I just don't. It's, look at the money that, Fox just committed to the Big Ten. It was essence $350 million or more just to get, Oregon and Washington on board. So that's a lot of cash to do. ACC can become sort of a private university conference. Viable, yes, will make less money per school than with their peers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of. There would be, there would be Virginia Tech, Duke, of course. There would be, NC State, North Carolina's gone. Florida State. There's still be Miami. There'd still be Syracuse, Pitt, Boston College. So yeah, there's certainly quality institutions there. And if you have Stanford, Cal, and SMU, you've got a pretty interesting group. But I don't know. It's just I don't know if that would be the way to go. I think I don't know. I just that's it's a good idea. It's an interesting idea, but is it an idea that Stanford would be writing a check to the ACC, and so would SMU, in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and basically buying their way in and jailbreaking the other four. I think if it were me, I would try to make a deal like that for one of them or two of them. Maybe I'd say Stanford. All right, you get FSU out on you get FSU out, and SMU, you get Clemson out, and let North Carolina stay where they are. They only need one vote. So maybe they do one, maybe they do two. I don't know. Maybe that's the way it happens. So we'll see. The comment above that one is the conference is moving in 10 games. Schedule is likely to pay for expansions. Yeah, and they've got a pro rata deal with ESPN as well. So that's not going to hurt them in that situation. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more likely to believe that they could spring one or two of them than I am that they're going to write a check for 4 schools at over $500 million. And again, the private schools, they don't have to. And we're talking about SMU now and Stanford. The private schools, they don't have to disclose what they do with their money. It's a great idea for those left behind. Their best option. Enough votes there, but may not be the best option they have if there are enough votes. A serious threat. Well, see, there's where the rub comes, right? if they onboard those 3 members, then they need more votes to dissolve the conference. And so, I've heard one, and it's a rumor, it's not the gospel by any stretch of imagination. I've heard one rumor that what they want to do is they want to get the incoming, if Stanford and Cal and SMU are incoming, they want to get those incoming schools to perhaps forego a vote on dissolving the conference. Okay, so that would make sure that they were not, tampering with doing it. So that's a possibility. I mean, that they would be able to vote on a number of issues, but that issue that would be one that they would vote on. So maybe that's part of it. I know that there have been multiple reports that they, meaning Stanford and SMU and Cal, are trying to figure out specific money.
Battery low, please charge.
Specific money figures that they could either take from the conference or in one way or shape or another invest in the conference. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of paper being exchanged, but not a lot of answers. So we'll have to take a look and see what they what they have to do, and it could be very interesting. There could even be, a lawsuit from some of the schools within the conference if they were to spring, like FSU or something like that. So there's that, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's become very. Notre Dame has special conditions regarding ACC voting. Can't vote to obtain. Notre Dame has a vote, and they voted to accept Stanford, Cal, and SMU. So let's see. Can't FSU, Clemson change Stanford's proxy vote? If they have a vote, the answer is yeah. Like I said, I've heard that they don't want them to have a vote, but if Stanford or any of the other schools, let's say Stanford, Cal, and SMU all get in, any one of those votes would be, there could be, a vote to help or to keep FSU and Clemson in the conference. So yeah, your question is right. I mean, it's Notre Dame has that special condition they can vote, and thus far they have voted for Stanford all the way down the line. So we know where they are, and of course the athletic director, he's the outgoing athletic director, even made an impassioned plea to say, we can't let schools like Stanford and Cal sit out there when when it's good for sports in general to have those two institutions in Division I, Power 5 status conference. Now, meanwhile, back at the ranch in Oregon and in Washington, they're just hoping against hope that they can get a new conference started, a new version of the Pac started. And I'm telling you right now that that's getting less and less likely every day. I think that right at this point in time, the American and the Mountain West have made it very clear that they would accept Oregon and Washington State and Cal and Stanford tomorrow. Now we know what Stanford's doing and we know what Cal's doing, but we know that right now the options of restarting the Pac-12 is really slim and none, because at the end of the day, you can't start a conference with 2 teams. It's hard enough to start with 4 teams. And so, yeah, they would be in position, I'm talking now about Oregon State, Washington State, to make a decision sooner as opposed to later, because 2024, they have no teams to play other than themselves at this point, depending upon how Cal and Cal and Stanford go. So they're in the rock and the hard place position, and it's not fair, but it is what it is. And so it would be beneficial to either the Mountain or the American to be able to add those two Power 5 schools, and maybe, just maybe, in the case of the both the American and the Mountain, they have money that would come their way. So we'll see. That's a very, very good situation in that regard. So they got that. Welcome, Frozo. It's good to see you. California goes to the ACC. Is the AAC merger? No, would not be. It would be either the Oregon State team going to, I assume the Oregon State and Washington State team would go either to the Mountain or they go to the American. So one of the two. I would say the front runner for the two of them might be, and I just say this, might be the American, because I think that they meaning the two schools, like the opportunity. But then again, the Mountain is closer. You don't have to travel as much, so maybe that's where they do it. But I would say that their options right now, probably the top options they have right now, rest right there in the American or in the Mountain. But merging is, there's no, if Stanford and Cal aren't part of it, there's no reason to merge. It doesn't do either of them any good. It's just onboarding one of these two schools would bump. Let's say what it would bump. They bump the American up maybe to probably 10 million a team from 7, maybe might be worth it to that. The Mountain has a brand new contract. Is getting a brand new contract in 2 years. So if they went to the Mountain, they might even get Mountain's at 4 or 5 million a year. They might be able to bump that up to 7 or 8, maybe even 10 as well. We don't know, but they're going to add something to those conferences, at this point. So good question, Jeff. What you got for us? The ACC still didn't vote them in. No, as an ACC fan, that is dead. Without expansion, the conference is dead. Well, yeah, I mean, it's good to keep infusing the conference with good quality teams. Right now, I think at the end of the day, it's really it's a family fight, Jeff. That's what it really is. You got 4 schools who are unhappy in the conference. They're stopping this because they feel that this is a point of leverage to get what they want. It's not helpful to Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina State, for them to act this way. They should be able to just onboard Stanford and Cal and SMU and move on their merry way. Remembering that Stanford, Cal, and SMU know that they're signing a grant of rights that goes through 2036. So, they're not going to leave anywhere. But this really is a nutso thing. And I can understand, Jeff, where you want them to come on. And I don't think that's a bad idea. But, at the moment, and, by the end of the week or by the end of when we finish this live session, they may do it. They may already, they may vote. But as I said this morning, there's only 2 things they're going to do. I'm talking about the ACC now. They're either going to call the presidents together to vote, as a formality, if you will, to vote to add these 3 teams, or you're going to issue a statement saying at this point in time, we're good. Okay, we're not going to expand. At which then Stanford has to make a decision as to whether or not it looks like Stanford's play here is, if this doesn't work, they may go independent. I've seen nothing that has Stanford excited in any way, shape, or form about reestablishing a PAC conference, Pac-8, a Pac-10, a Pac-12, whatever. At this point in time, now that may change, but right now doesn't look like it. But good question, Jeff. Good question. T. Hire, what you got? I think we'll hear it before the end of the week. I do. I think one way or the other, they can't keep this up. I mean, life goes on, and life goes on for all of the teams there. They just can't keep it going. Okay, it makes no sense. This is not rocket science, guys. You either want these teams or you don't. Okay, there's money that would be coming in that they would help infuse some of it. Now, is it enough money? I mean, I've heard everything from, when you break it down, it's 2 million to 4 million to 6 million per team. I don't know what that number is. It's not going to make Florida State happy. It's not going to make Clemson happy. It's not going to put North Carolina, and none of those teams. That kind of money is not going to make anybody happy. It's money, but it's not going to make them happy. So, we're going to see what's going on for sure. Am I correct? The ACC deal with ESPN allows for up to 4 more teams at same payment per team already built in. It is, Jeff. It's a pro rata contract, and what that means, pro rata contract, is like we saw Fox in the situation of Big 12 and also the Big 10. You can. Let's say you're ESPN and I'm the conference. I can say I'm bringing Stanford and Cal, which has a much higher value than some other schools which we might onboard. There's a minimum amount of money that in that pro rata deal that they will pay. There is no, the maximum is whatever you can negotiate. So I have not heard that they're going to be the same payout. And in fact, the one thing they have done in the cases of Stanford and certainly SMU have almost gone on the record to say they'll waive the money. Okay, they'll let the conference have that money. So I think that ESPN would pay the money, whatever that is, and if they could negotiate it up a bit to what you're talking about, then it's still not going to make FSU and Clemson and everybody happy, but it's still a pretty nice chunk of change. So yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I think they should be able to do it. Didn't USC vote against expansion? They did indeed. They did. Then they bolted. Absolutely correct. Could something happen in the ACC? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean could they join the ACC? I'm saying could Florida State and Clemson and Carolina State pull an SC? Is that what you're asking? The answer is yeah, they could. And actually, in many ways, that's what they're doing, right? In plain sight, right? They're saying we don't want these people, we don't want Stanford and Cal in there, in large part because A, we don't want any more mouths to feed, and B, that brings on new potential people who can vote against us leaving. So yeah, I mean, this is like the USC deal, but in some regards, it's actually even worse because they're doing it right in front of you. So this is basically negotiating in. I mean, FSU's proven that they don't care. They've been on the record, and the president's been on the record, and the AD's been on the record. Seems like everybody, their grandmother, has been on the record with that. So we'll see. We'll absolutely see. Building. Yeah, you're right. You absolutely are right. The only way I've been able to figure out, Jeff, what you're talking, what a schedule would look like in 2024, and this is not just for the 4 teams, not just for Stanford, is they might have to go and work a deal with the Mountain West or with the ACC or a combination of the two, where they will allow them to schedule games, they'll offer some they, meaning the American or the Mountain, would offer some teams up as opponents in hopes of drawing more people, in hopes of bumping up things, and maybe even in hopes of winning over Stanford and Cal to want to join the league. So those are options. But you're right. If they have to start from scratch and go door to door figuring out who's going to be there, they're going to have a hard time putting together a 10 or 12 game schedule by any measure. Obviously they would play 3 games, and those would be a round robin against each other. So that would stay. But adding another 7 or 8 games to that's going to be really tough. Even at this point in time, I mean, it would be very difficult. But it might be doable, as I said, if you make a deal with one of the American or the Mountain. Maybe you could cobble together those games. So we'll see, though. The point, Jeff, that you make right here is a very important point. And that is, people say, well, they've got, when 2024 rolls around, they have to 2026 to really become a conference. Well, that's true. But if you're going to onboard any of these people, you got to know when and what you're getting into. You have to, what's the grant of rights? Who's my media partner? How much money am I going to pay more money to get out than I'm going to get when I get there? So there's a lot more questions that cannot be answered while Stanford and Cal are sitting there on the phone playing phone tag and how to get into the ACC. It makes literally no sense. It absolutely makes no sense. But, it's realignment. What hasn't made sense in this? Would probably be impossible for them to splash so much money around to pay schools enough to let them do as they, for the pay penalties and breaking off of previous scheduled games. It's quite likely, Immaculate, that you're right. There would be a money issue there, unless there are situations where they could get out of a contract by saying we'll play a 2-for-1 situation, which happens. It was supposed to be a home and home, but now I'll play 2-for-1, where you'll come to my place once, I'll go to your place twice. It can be done. It's just that it takes more time, and time doesn't necessarily is not on the side of these days of Stanford and Cal. And I don't understand why they're dragging this thing out any longer than they already are. But hey, seems like that is the way they go, right? If ESPN is willing to offer $30 million per school, and then new schools are willing to forego 8 for 3 for years, why not take that pool? I agree with you 100%. It makes sense, and I would think that that's something that certainly Stanford and SMU would sign off on. Now, here's the deal: California, being a public university, we all remember when UCLA was met with the Board of Regents, and the Board of Regents was upset, and they didn't think that they were that was a good idea. And eventually, obviously, UCLA got out. There's no way on this planet that Cal is going to get out of the deal with the ACC without some money, and that some money has to be, it's got to be in the 20, at the very least, it's got to be 25, because they were basically 25 was offered to them by Apple. So if 25 is offered to them by Apple, they're going to have to at least get 25. Now, if SMU and Stanford say we'll take a walk for 5 years and let that go, well then then partial that, then that's 60. That's 73. I mean, says 90 mil would go down. They could take 30 if it's 30, right? Cal could take 30. It'd make them look good, and the other two schools would let the 60 go. So, and that could be spread amongst the group. And again, I don't know if that's enough money to make, FSU happy or Clemson or others happy, but at the end of the day, that may be their only option if they really want Stanford, Cal, and SMU, and I do. I think they do. So good question, Jeff. What do you got? FSU locked into an ironclad miserable marriage for 13 years and forced to pay alimony and child support. That's pretty much what it is. We love, the Seminoles. They've been bold. They've been very bold and very uncollege-like. I mean, they're playing. They're basically coming out and saying we're worth more than this, and we're not being treated fairly. So let's go. Immaculate, buddy. Have a good day. All right. Thanks for coming by. I see you got to go. Enjoy. Have a good, safe day. All right. Let's see what we got here. Hey, good to see somebody representing San Diego State University. It's always good. Miami is a quiet no vote for ACC expansion, but I've read and heard elsewhere that they are against it as well. Look, it's possible that just those four, when they held the straw vote, since the straw vote isn't going to count anyway, and they already know, okay, well, we know that Clemson and we know that Florida State, we know that, both Carolinas are against this. So we can either vote, yes or abstain or whatever. So yeah, it's possible that there are more than, if there's 7 teams right now that are willing to consider tanking the conference, then it may make some sense to, during that straw vote, just basically not push the issue. But that's the other part of this. It could be more than 4 votes. If it's more than 4 votes, if it's 5, or if it's 6, then this is never going to happen. And I don't know who knows that, right? It's going to be very crazy. But yeah, you're right, 100%. Miami could be on the no vote side, and we just won't know until they put out a statement saying, as I said, they're not going to tell you who voted against them whenever there's an announcement that is made. They'll just simply say the conference either accepts them or the conference isn't going to expand at this time. One of those 2 options. Got to go. Immaculate, have a good day. Always good to have you. And we'll see you soon. All right. Miles of Fun. That's a cool name. Do you think 4 holdouts can use this opportunity to lessen their final financial exit? I don't think so. I mean, there's no leverage here. I mean, you've got 3 schools who are desperate to get into the conference. If you're saying, can they put a vote up and say, look, I'll vote this way if you lessen my financial exit? It's a talking point, but I don't know that it's something that would in any way, shape, or form move the needle to get that done. So I mean, at this point in time, look, I imagine there's 1,001 scenarios going on, guys. Some of them off the wall, some of them make sense. So would that be on the table? I would think it would be on the table. Will they accept it? I would say no, but then again, who knows? I mean, they've accepted things that I've defied belief in before. So I'm going to go with it's probably on the table, number one, and it probably won't be they probably won't do it. Exit fees, because it's just they can't afford to let those franchises go away. It's just too much. It would hurt them too much. So they want to make it hard on them, and they can. So we'll see. And if that means Stanford and Cal and SMU don't come to the conference, well, then we don't have to go far to find out who stopped that one, right? But why not, Miles? Right? Why not ask? All you say is no. This is what contracts are. You lock yourself in so early. And the funny thing about that, Jeff, is that you remember when John Swofford, of course, was the guy in was the guy in charge, and he was the one who onboarded all of the the former Big East schools. Swofford went in on that contract with ESPN, and he did it for 2036 because he said what he wanted was cost certainty over that period of time. Now, what I don't understand, and maybe we'll find out someday, is why he didn't write into the contract the opportunity to evaluate it every, say, 5 or 6 years. So, that they could go back and evaluate what would be fair market value for what the program is. So I'm kind of curious as to why that didn't happen in the contract between ESPN and the ACC, that there wasn't any, I'm not going to say outs because that not necessarily was what it would be. It would be just a revisit the contract to see if there's any, if there should be some market adjustments because the market changes. And I don't know that Swofford was looking in that direction, but he certainly put. I mean, that was a ridiculously long contract for no outs in it. And I don't know if that was ESPN that demanded it that way, or I don't know if it was Swofford that brought it to them. But the university presidents all signed off on it, including FSU. So you can sign a bad contract and try to get out of it, but you can't dodge the fact that you did it. So we'll see. We'll see soon, I hope. As a Syracuse fan, go Orange, huh? Feels inevitable that we'll be a non-Power 5 regional conference with the ACC remnant schools like UConn, East Carolina in a few years, honestly. I may welcome that point. It's kind of interesting, Jeff. Syracuse has had such a wonderful history in football and basketball and throughout. I think that people just want to watch games and watch their teams play and perhaps win their conference, and not every year are they going to go for a championship. And I think that the real killer for me, as someone who enjoys college sports, is that in chasing the money, they're basically ruining the sport and ruining the fun and taking the fun out of it. In the regional conference situation. Remember the Big East, you're a Syracuse fan, you can go to the Big East basketball tournament over at the Garden. You could go you could drive to many of the places, and when they're playing football, you could drive over to BC, you could drive to Pitt, you could come and see those games, or maybe take a flight and fly to Miami and watch Miami play against the Syracuse Orangemen. So yeah, there was all kinds of cool stuff that was going on in the old Big East, and I like the regional stuff of the conferences. I think that was something that really was in. So T-Mac says that the ACC meeting was canceled. Well, that's not a good sign at the moment for those folks getting in. I didn't see that they actually had a meeting, but if you say so, I'll take your word for it, T-Mac, that the ACC meeting was canceled, and that simply just means they don't have the votes to pass. So, and I don't know how much longer this melodrama is going to drag out. It can't for much longer, as we said before, because they've got to get to deciding what they're going to do 2024 and beyond. And they don't want to be screwing with this during the football season and into the fall and then into the early part of the next year. It's just, you can't do it that way. You have to start with a plan, work a plan, and get the plan in place. And right now, nobody has a plan. So we'll see. We'll see. Thanks for the update there, T-Mac. Appreciate it. So Miles, what you got for us? And North Carolina Senator Jim Perry recently stated that he could not see NC State separating thoughts. Yeah, initially, the ACC was going to take West Virginia into the deal. That was initially. The state of Virginia voted that they would like to have Virginia and Virginia Tech in the same conference. Now, Virginia was already in the ACC as a founding member. Virginia Tech wasn't. To placate the Virginia legislature, the ACC put Virginia Tech in the conference. So yeah, there is precedence for that. So there's no law, saying it. I mean, we saw the Board of Regents in Arizona basically at one point said that they wanted two Arizona schools together, but they didn't have to be together. So it's been done both ways. One in the case of Virginia, the other in the case of Arizona, which became a moot point because they went ahead and went to the Big 12 anyway. So, excuse me just a second. Thank you. All right. So, Miles, keep an eye on it because I have a feeling that, by the way, both Oregon and Washington and Arizona had bills in their legislature to do the same thing you're just saying, which would have been the state would have mandated that one school couldn't go without the other. The problem with Washington and Oregon is it didn't get to the legislature fast enough, which, is just symptomatic of what the Pac-12 had going against it. But interesting stuff, Miles. Thanks. All right, my buddy. Appreciate your work. Hey, it's one of my favorite places out there. I have a couple of really good friends who graduated from San Diego State, and I hope that you guys are in good shape out there. I hope that you're not, under the water out there. It's a fun situation to talk about sports, but more importantly, we hope that you, Mr. Warrior, and your fellow San Diego State University Aztec family is safe and sound and dry somewhere, and that you didn't get hit with that terrible weather. Hang in there, buddy. We support you. All right. So we got Jeff. Funny how North Carolina from Arizona are so committed to keeping their schools together, while Oregon and Washington, they're like, bye. Yeah, exactly. It's like good deal here. Miles, look, buddy, have a nice day. Thanks for dropping by. Really appreciate it. Okay. Don't work too hard. So yeah, Jeff. I mean, yeah, we're against it. We're for you until we're not. And so, what are you gonna do, right? So it's crazy. What do we got, KJ? Different direction. It's okay. The Conference USA did the Conference USA teams sign a grant of rights agreement? I believe they did. You almost have to, because you're allowing in the grant of rights, KJ. What you're allowing is your intellectual property, as well as your marks, meaning your logos and all that, to be used by usually a broadcast network, but also, let's say that the conference has a tournament, or the conference is promoting something. They need your permission to use your logos and your artwork and pictures and all that sort of thing. So the grant of rights in it has that ability. So you're waiving it. So you're giving the conference everything they need to promote you. So that's part of the grant of rights. So I would imagine since Conference USA does things on television, that there is a grant of rights that allows them, the Conference USA, to go forth with the ability to use the logos and everything that it takes to promote the team. So I'll tell you what, KJ, if you want to leave me a comment after the show in the show box, I'll look it up for you and I'll shoot it back to you, okay? Because I would be surprised if they didn't, but that doesn't necessarily. Maybe they just have a loose agreement with them. Maybe it's just a piece of paper, contract saying you can use the grant of rights, and I'm sorry, you can use the logos and anything else you may need. So I don't know that to be a fact, but I would certainly think it is. But just to be safe, whenever the show goes, the comments will open, so you'll be able to comment and just leave me a note down there. And anybody else who has any questions or comments or things that they want to get in, all you have to do is once the show's over, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And if you miss it live, go back and take a look at it later. Okay. I am going to ask a favor for once here, and that is, do me a favor, subscribe, hit the bell, and like us. Okay. And then we can continue to do this. It's a lot of fun. You guys bring a lot to the party. Some very good questions and some very good thoughts. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting season. A lot of good stuff coming up. We will be talking to a lot of broadcasters and a lot of TV executives and talking about how things are being shaped and maybe getting some previews from some guys who will be calling the games during the Saturdays, and I guess Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever these games are these days, we'll get them all. So we're just working right now to have some fun. All right, let's see. Any final questions from the class here before we get out here on a Tuesday, which I hope you all will be safe and have a good day. So any final questions before we close up shop? Going once, going twice? Guess not. Well, wait a minute. Jeff got one in. There we go, Jeff. Sad thing, if it was all about football only, adding 4 Pac remnants would make the ACC better football conference. It would create a much easier West Coast scheduling. Yeah, it is sad. It's very sad to see that. I was personally very sad to see the Pac go in itself. I mean, that was, the regionality of the conferences was something that I really enjoyed. And, Jeff, what are you going to do, right? I mean, I hope that that the ACC is able to do that, because I do think it would make them. Stanford had a heck of a recruiting class, and they may not be the best team in the Pac this year, but they certainly have a very strong future coming up for them. Cal's got a few good pieces. Oregon State could win the whole damn conference this year. So there's some good teams there, not only in football, but as we know, Stanford. How'd you like to have Stanford in baseball and softball in that conference? Wow, that would be pretty amazing. That would definitely be pretty amazing. All right, guys, thanks so much. Again, subscribe, hit the bell, like us. Once our live show is over, you may put any comments and questions down there. I'll get them and I'll answer them for you. All right. Okay, guys. Thanks so much for being with us here today. We will see you sometime tomorrow. Okay, at 10 a.m.